everybody, how's it going? JB here with another Juniper live stream test preparation video. Previously, I covered the JNCIA-Junos test, or the 2 prep tests for that, and then I've also done the JNCIA-SEC test preps as well. Today we're going to move on to the 3rd certification that I'm working on for the Juniper associate level certifications, and that is the JNCDA. So that is their architecture based certification. It kind of goes over some data center stuff and kind of like the overall way that you would want to design and implement solutions for your customer. So I'm just going to give you a quick little rundown as far as the different areas that the cert covers. Just do that really quick just to give you an idea of the core objectives and stuff like that, and then we'll jump into the first prep test like we have with the previous videos. So here we go. If we go and we take a look, I believe it is under the design track, and yep, the Juniper Open Learning Design Associate. So if we just take kind of a quick look at the different things that it covers, right? We have design fundamentals, understanding customer requirements. It's kind of interesting. Looking at this compared to the other Juniper certs that I've done so far, I actually found the information in this is really beneficial, especially for new engineers. If you've never had any real experience with actually working in a customer environment and working through how to develop an appropriate solution, there's a lot of topics and methodologies that they cover in here, which kind of aren't things that they normally teach, like in you know, your normal certifications that are strictly hands-on CLI based type of stuff. So I think it's pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed going through all of the different topics here. I thought it was definitely worth my time. And actually, out of the 3 tests that I've studied for so far, this one has been the one that I actually found the most enjoyable. So yeah, looking at the rest of this, securing the network, different design concepts, whether you're dealing with campuses, so that's going to kind of be like your LAN-based stuff, WANs, data centers, business continuity. So that's going to be kind of like disaster recovery, adding in different types of failover components, things along that line. Network management, automation, network migration strategies, and then they kind of go over some sample designs of how to kind of take all those things and put them together in a way where it would actually be an overall solution for an environment. So really cool. Really like this. So let's scroll down a little bit further. Unlike the other 2 certs that I studied for, the other 2 associate certs, the Junos and the SEC, they actually have prep videos here too, which is kind of cool. So definitely worth your time. Here's practice test 1. I actually haven't started this yet. So let's just jump into this. So it's going to be 65 questions. Got to get a 70 to pass. Like all of these practice tests, you can pretty much take them as many times as you want. So yeah, let's hop into it. All right. Question 1. Which 2 statements are correct in regards to creating a successful network design for a customer? You should understand the state of the customer's current network. You should analyze current and future network behavior. You should only consider greenfield network solutions. You should only consider brownfield network solutions. So both of those are incorrect answers. So you want to understand the state of your customer's network, and then you also want to analyze current behavior and hopefully identify what the future behavior will be. All right. Next question. What are the 3 phases of the Juniper Lifecycle Service Approach? So let's go plan, build, and operate. All right, let's see. Let's see, where are we at? Next question. What are the two main subphases of the plan methodology? Assess, or access, scope, design, and build. Let's go scope and design. So we're talking about planning. We want to understand what the scope is going to entail, and we want to have a design. Could be that first one, maybe. Not sure if scope and assess, we'll see. Yeah. Okay, yep. So when you're assessing, you're kind of going to figure out what the scope is, so I can see why that would go that way. All right. Which two items are key RFP elements? Choose two. Logical design requirements, business requirements, environmental requirements, physical design requirements. Let's see. I don't think that it's going to be environmental requirements. I don't know. Business requirements would definitely seem to be one. And I'm not sure if they actually would put in a logical design requirements, but they could have physical design requirements as far as where stuff needs to be and locations and stuff like that. So let's give that a try. Nope. So it is business requirements and environmental requirements. Let's see, next. The business continuity RFP element contains which two requirements? So business continuity, wired connection requirements, traffic requirements, network efficiency requirements, QoS requirements. Let's go traffic requirements and network efficiency requirements. Nope. Network efficiency requirements and QoS requirements. Okay. Yeah, definitely need to hit on the RFP section again. The environmental requirements RFP elements contain which two items? A summary of the type of business a customer is in, an explanation of why design is required, a detailed report that describes the facility specifications, definitely that, and then the number of users and workstations. Definitely sounds like those would be them. Yep. The connectivity and throughput requirements RFP elements contain which two items? So connectivity and throughput. Number of so hierarchical design considerations, number of wireless connections needed, traffic analysis, functionality of each module within the design. I'm gonna say number of wireless connections needed and traffic analysis. But it could be hierarchical design. Let's see. Nope, there we go. What are two aspects of Greenfield projects? So remember I said Greenfield projects deal with all of the devices being from the same vendor. New networks with few or no constraints to consider. Old equipment that should be replaced. Legacy applications that are no longer used. Next generation networks created from the ground up. And maybe I spoke wrong about the Greenfield. Greenfield might be Yes, I did speak wrong about that. Sorry about that. Greenfield projects are when there is nothing in place already and you're building stuff completely from scratch, versus brownfield is there's already stuff in place and you're kind of trying to retrofit stuff into that. So we'll go new networks with few no constraints. Next generation networks that can be created from the ground up. There we go. Sorry about that. When analyzing customer requirements, what are two of the categories that customer requirements can be organized into? Customer requirements. Two of the categories. Availability and security. Access. Ooh, that's tough. Let's go access and availability. Ooh, knew it was going to be security. Security and availability. Oh, I had it right the first time. Don't double think, or don't doubt yourself the first time. So 6 categories are security, availability, scalability, manageability, and performance. Okay. When analyzing customer requirements, what are 3 of the categories that customer requirements can be organized into? Performance, scalability, and manageability, since we just covered that in the last question. Which 2 statements are true in regards to design proposals? You should add as much complexity as possible to your design proposal. That is incorrect. You should keep your design proposal as simple as possible. You should create the physical design before the logical design. You should create the logical design before the physical design. Which one? Oh, that's a tough one. Because I could see it in different scenarios, I could see that working in different ways. But I guess you want to know what locations you're going to be at. You're going to want to scope things for what you know needs to be handled, and then from there you can break stuff up into a logical design. So, ooh, though. You should create the logical design before you should keep your design proposal simple. So you should create, okay. I guess. Which 2 statements are true in regards to design proposals? Security only needs to be considered after the network is in place and functioning. That is incorrect. Security should be considered throughout the design process. That is correct. Your design proposal should be clearly documented. There is no need to document your design proposal. That is a really, really, really easy question. All right, next. Which 2 statements are correct in regard to modularity in your network design? Modularity facilitates future growth and troubleshooting efforts. That is true. Modularity provides hierarchical structure to your design. I don't know about that. Modularity provides a flat structure for you to design. Don't know about that. Modularity can stop future growth and troubleshooting efforts. Don't agree with that. I'm going to go provides hierarchical structure to your design. Correct. Which 2 statements describe business continuity? The prevention of interruption to mission critical services, the ability to reestablish full functionality quickly after disaster, manually turning on a backup server after a disaster, manually loading previously backed up data. Let's go with the top 2. Okay. What are the last 2 steps of business continuity planning? Know your network, test a plan, formulate the plan, assess the risks. We're going to go test a plan. We're going to formulate the plan and then test a plan. You need to know your network and assess the risks prior to developing a plan. So, cool. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. Question 16. Which two statements are true in regards to the Know Your Network step of business continuity planning? You should list all functions and services in your network. You should perform a business impact analysis. You should perform a risk assessment. You should develop a plan of actions to mitigate the risks. Well, we're not going to be developing a plan because that would not be part of the Know Your Network. We do want to know all the functions and services in the network. I could see a business impact analysis. You wanting to know what are the key components in your environment. That would make sense. All right, we'll go with those. We'll see. Correct. Which statement is true in regards to the assess the risks step of business continuity planning? You should list all the functions and services in the network. Well, we just chose that on the previous step, so no. You should perform a business impact. Nope. How about perform a risk assessment and develop? Oh, it's just going to be one. Yep. So you should perform a risk assessment in the assess the risks. It's pretty straightforward. All right. Which statement is true in regards to the formulate the plan step of the business continuity planning? Well, it's not the first one. It's not the second one. It's not the third one. So we're going to develop a plan of action to mitigate the risks. Pretty straightforward. An RFP response should include which three items? Executive summary, solution overview, technical specs. I don't know that you're going to put a bill of materials in there. You're going to do a quote. I don't know that you're going to do... Let's go with that. I could be wrong, but let's go with that. No, okay. Bill of materials seems a little too granular at that point. You might give a quote or a price or something like that, but to go and actually have a bill for stuff that you haven't built out yet. You might have a ROM, but all right. Which two statements describe why the executive summary section of an RFP is so important? It's likely to be read by all decision makers. That's true because it's going to be at the front of it, the front of the RFP. It's an overview of Juniper's value proposition to the customer. It outlines the technical benefits of the proposed solution. It addresses the customer's goal, scope, and requirements. I am going to go those two. Correct. These things here, kind of once you start to get into the actual, not the executive summary, but kind of like the solution overview, and then the specifics will be when those other things come into play. Which two statements are true in regard to the technical specification section? Oh, okay. It should contain the logical and physical topology design requirements. Seems like it would be okay. It will likely be read by all decision makers. Probably not. It should contain the bill of materials. Nope. It should address the customer's goals, scope, and requirements. Yep, sounds good to me. Ooh, is it going to be bill of materials? Yep. Okay. What is the second step of the Juniper recommended executive summary structure of an RFP? Identification of business benefits, relevant supporting information outlining why the customer should choose your plan, overview of the proposed solution, introduction of the customer's need or problem. I'm going to shoot in the dark here. It's not going to be that. I don't know about that. Let's go introduction of business benefits. Okay, cool. What should be the first item in your network design checklist? A validation process for analyzing customers' existing environment, a process for selecting protocols, address schemes, and naming conventions, a process for understanding the customer's business and technical goals, the steps for designing a network topology. So I'm going to say a process for understanding the customer's business and technical goals. You want to know those first before you really start to do anything. Okay. What should be the third item in your network design checklist? A validation process for analyzing customers' existing environment, a process for selecting protocols, address schemes, name and forth, process for understanding the customer. That was already the first one. The steps for designing a network topology. Either this one or this one. I feel like you would do this first. You'd want to understand the business and technical goals. Then you'd want to analyze the existing environment. And then a process for selecting these based off of that information and the other information. We'll see. Incorrect. Okay. Here we go, just so we'll cover these. The first four steps are a process for understanding the customer's business and technical goals, a validation process for analyzing the customer's existing environment, which is what I would have thought that would have been, the steps for designing a network topology, and then a process for selecting. Okay, for some reason that one threw me off. But okay, on to the next. What should be the fourth item in your network design checklist? Well, since I just screwed that up on the last one, it's a process for selecting protocols, address schemes, naming conventions, and so forth. Cool. What are 2 rules you should follow when writing an executive summary of an RFP? Canned responses are definitely not okay. Keep it short and simple. We don't want to give a history of Juniper Networks because we can Google that. Focus on organizational issues. You are designing a highly resilient network. Which 2 high availability techniques should you use? Virtual chassis for EX devices. So that's when you combine 2 devices into one. Yes. High bandwidth uplink, a single uplink, negative. SFP interfaces, negative. Redundant power supplies. Cool. You are designing a highly resilient network. Which 2 high availability techniques should you use? Stateful failover for firewall platforms. Chassis cluster for firewall platforms, definitely. Stateless failover for firewall platforms. Redundant firewall filter. I'm going to go stateful failover, meaning if something happens on the first firewall and the traffic has to fail over to this, it keeps track of sessions and stuff like that, so you don't end up having as much of an issue from a failover perspective. All right, question 29. In which 2 situations does a backup WAN link with another provider make sense in a network design? You want to combine WAN links in a lag to increase throughput? Good luck with that. That will not work. When the users in the network rely on communication through email, that could definitely be a good reason. When the users in the network rely on communication through VoIP, that could definitely be a good reason. When the cost of second link is less than the cost of downtime. I'm not sure. We're going to go with those 2. Okay. When the users rely on communication through VoIP, okay. And when the cost of the second link is less than the cost of downtime. So meaning the inverse of that is the cost of second link is more than how much the downtime cost will be. Okay. I would think that the email, like external email and stuff like that, would make sense as well, depending on the situation. But okay. Question 30. In which two situations does physical device redundancy make sense in a network design? When zero impact to users and applications is required during device failures. Okay. When device failures in customer's WAN provider are a possibility. I don't know how that would have anything to do with that. When downtime is not acceptable for device upgrades. When server load in the DMZ is higher than normal. I'm going to go zero impact to users during failures and when downtime is not acceptable for device upgrades. Cool. All right. Some more water. Question 31. Almost halfway there. You have designed a network in which all network devices have redundant power supplies. Good job. However, the redundant power supplies are plugged into a single power source. Not a good job. Which two statements are true? There is no problem the power redundancy requirements are met. No, the power redundancy requirements are not met as a single power source could fail. Yep, that is correct. The redundant power supply should be plugged into separate power sources. Yep. What are two benefits of VRRP? It's an open standard and provides redundancy through a virtual IP address. Correct. Virtual router redundancy protocol. For the Cisco folks, sometimes we use HSRP. This is another option. This is what Juniper uses. You're attempting to form a chassis cluster with an SRX340 and an SRX345, but the chassis cluster formation is failing. Why is a chassis cluster failing to properly form? The SRX340 does not support chassis clustering. The SRX model numbers must be the same to form a chassis cluster. 345 does not support chassis clustering. The SRX series does not support chassis clustering. Well, that is completely incorrect. I don't know specifics about either of those if they don't support clustering, but I would assume, based off of what I've done in the past, I've only clustered the same models together, so we'll go with that one. Correct. Which two statements are true regarding chassis clustering? Choose two. The chassis cluster uses a fabric link between the two nodes. That's correct. The chassis cluster uses FXP10 link between two nodes. I don't know about that. The chassis cluster nodes must be within 10 feet of each other. That's wild. The chassis cluster nodes can be located in different cities. I'm trying to think if I've ever heard of a node scenario of the clusters being in different cities. I mean, could you backhaul the fiber links between those? That would be pretty wild. I've never heard of anybody doing that. Just because I'm not sure of that, and that's definitely not it. I'm going to go with that. It is. You can do it in different cities. Interesting. Yeah, I've never seen anybody do that, but that's pretty cool. Okay. It makes sense. I mean, if you a fiber connection is a fiber connection. If you want to long haul that to a different city, sure. Which statement is true in regards to VRRP? The VRP members use a control link between the two nodes. The VRP members use FXP0 link between two nodes. VRP members must contain two identical routing platforms. VRPs can contain two different routing platforms. I don't know. I don't know if by control link they mean a physical control link. Should not be the case. Or if they mean just like control traffic back and forth between them. I'm going to go with this, but I'm not sure I understand the question. Yeah, okay. So they can contain two different routing platforms, obviously. So since it's an open standard, you can use different stuff. All right. Yeah, the control link here, I guess they really meant a physical control link and not control traffic. So it's my bad, just not understanding the question. Which data interchange format is used to automate Junos? YAML, yet another markup language. Okay. Which of the two statements are true in regards to campus redundancy best practices? Choose two. You must include highly available redundant connections for all applications in your design. And that would be incorrect because it depends on the business need. You need to include hardware redundancy in your design. Wireline reliability is not necessary for wireless clients in your design. Redundancy of wireless access points is unnecessary in your design. Let's go hardware redundancy, and wireline reliability is not necessary for wireless clients in your design. You must include highly available redundant connections for all applications. That's the answer that they're going to give you, but I'm not going to agree with that because you could have applications that just don't have that requirement. And if you don't have that requirement, why are you going to design and spend money on something specific for that? Hardware redundancy for sure. Okay. Which of the two statements are true in regards to campus redundancy best practices? You need to include network redundancy in your design. Well, that seems pretty obvious. You need to include redundant wireless access points in your design. Well, I guess that would be true if you had wireless access points. Hardware redundancy is not necessary for wireless clients in your design. So I'm going to go with those two. You need to include redundant wireless access points in your design. Correct. You must design a campus that involves Ethernet switches that will be using Cat6 copper cables. What is the maximum distance between Ethernet switches? Anybody want to guess? This is like Network Plus level stuff, and it's one of those things, once you remember it, you will never forget it forever. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. It's going to be 100 meters. There we go. Which two statements are true when determining the size and scope of a new network design? The number of users is important. The number of users is not important. Well, the number of users is important. The type of devices is important. The type of device is not important. Well, that's pretty common sense. You have been asked and tasked to determine the capacity and scaling of systems for a campus switching design. Which two statements are true? The average number of wireless devices that will be connecting to the network. It's a good thing to know. The number of guest users. The number of remote workers. The average bandwidth usage of users. So you have been tasked to determine the capacity and scaling of a system for campus switching design. Which two statements are true? Don't care so much about guest users. And don't care so much about remote workers for capacity and scaling on a campus switching design. Average number of wireless devices and average bandwidth of users. Okay. You do care about remote workers, but I care about those two things more. Remote workers, you want to make sure that you have the bandwidth on your backbone or your core network for them to be able to access things, and you want to make sure that you have termination devices for whatever type of VPN they're using to get in the environment that's able to handle the amount of remote workers that you have. But these other two things are a little bit more pertinent from a campus perspective. So you must design a network for a large campus building with many users who are in different departments. Which technology should you use for your design? VLANs. Love me some VLANs. You wouldn't really use GRE, that's a tunneling protocol. BGP is a routing protocol that's normally used across the internet, and RIP is a interior gateway routing protocol that you would have used on your network 30 years ago. So don't use RIP. You were designing a network design in which access between different groups must be tightly restricted. What should you do to accomplish this? Access between different groups are well, I'm going to say a firewall. That would be the best way to break things up, but we'll see what they go with here. Okay, good. I'm glad they didn't do something crazy like, say, a layer 3 switch with a whole bunch of ACLs. That would be messy. Connectivity issues have been seen by users in remote offices when attempting to access resources in the corporate headquarters. You must design a fix for this issue. Which technology would you include in your design? It's an MTU issue. 100% MTU issue. But let's say they want to throw a bunch of money at it. Let's see. Connectivity issues have been remote offices. Which design? You must design it. Well, it's going to be hub and spoke. Redundant WAN links. See, that's not a good question because they aren't really telling you what the connectivity issues are, right? It's not a circuit connectivity issue. It could be an application connectivity issue. It could be a resource-based connectivity issue. So I don't like that question. But, yeah, all right. Your customer currently has a hub-and-spoke VPN, but has seen that the forwarding capabilities of the hub device being overwhelmed during times of high traffic between spoke devices. Also, due to recent cutbacks, the IT staff is already overwhelmed. What should you recommend as a solution? Replace the hub and spoke VPN with a full mesh VPN. Oh, goodness. Replace the hub and spoke VPN with an SSL VPN. Replace the hub and spoke VPN with a full mesh MPLS VPN. Replace the hub and spoke VPN with a AD VPN. I'm going to go AD VPN. I'm going to be that or SSL, but we'll see. Yes. All right. Your customer requires a solution that allows remote home workers to access resources at the corporate headquarters securely. Which technology would you recommend? SSL VPN over AD VPN, hub and spoke full mesh. Okay. All right. Last sip of water. All right. Which Juno space application can be used to manage VLANs on EX devices? So, security director is going to be for firewalls, log director, network director, connectivity services. It's going to be network director. Cool. Which Juno space application can be used to store and manage events for SRX devices? Network management platform, security director, logging and reporting, network director, connectivity service director. So like I said, security director is for firewalls. There we go. In regards to Juno space deployment, which two statements are true? Juno space can only communicate with devices through its ETH0 interface. Juno space can only communicate with devices through its E3 interface. Juno space typically uses the ETH0 interface to manage devices through the OOB or E3. Let's go typically on ETH0. Ooh. Is it really going to be only communicates with ETH0? I was supposed to choose 2? Oh, dang it. Oh, I didn't read it right. Yeah. Okay. Because that's obvious, because those are only, and so if you're using ones that are typically... Dang it. Always read the question all the way through. Juno Space Security Director is an example of which type of network management solution? On-box, op script, event script, centralized. Yes. Your customer wants to ensure that their data center is completely prepared for disaster recovery scenario. What would you recommend? Deploying a data center interconnect, deploying centralized management, deploying decentralized management, deploying a dual uplinks to separate ISPs. Deploying a data center interconnect to where? I don't know about that. Let's go dual ISPs. Like, is that to a backup data center? Okay. Between two data, right. But it didn't say that there is a backup data center. So, deploying a data center interconnect to your backup data center. I would like that answer better. What Juno Space application can be used to manage Layer 3 VPNs on MX devices? Network Director. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, it's going to be Connectivity Service Director, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be Connectivity Service Director. Dang it. Your customer has had troubles in the past with spanning tree implementations and has asked you to design a layer 2 network that doesn't require spanning tree. Which technology would you recommend to the customer? Well, if you take your switches and you combine them into a virtual chassis, then you don't have multiple switches, so you don't have to worry about determining who the root is for the different spanning tree instances. So let's go with that. Okay, cool. Which 2 statements are true regarding virtual chassis fabric, VCF? VCF uses a spine and leaf architecture. VCF uses a hub and spoke architecture. Each connected host in a data center is no more than 3 hops away from every host in a data center. Each connected host in a data center is no more than 2 hops away from every other host. Well, let's go spine and leaf. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not sure. 3 hops seems more reasonable than 2 hops. So let's go that. It's going to be 2 hops. Okay. 3 hops would have been too good. So 2 hops it is. Which 2 technologies can you use to stretch layer 2 traffic between 2 data centers over a DCI? GRE. Right, you can do GRE tunnel or EVPN. Yeah. Your customer's new network contains network devices from multiple vendors. You've been asked to propose 2 technologies that will work among all the vendors. Which 2 technologies can you recommend for the design? So we are talking about open standard protocols. HSRP is going to be Cisco. VRRP we've already talked about. VPLS, I think. VTP is virtual trunking protocol, and I do not remember talking about VTP with any Juniper stuff. but it is definitely something with Cisco. So I'm going to go the first two. Okay. Your customer's new network contains network devices, multiple vendors. So same thing as before. Last question. Which two technologies can you recommend for the design? RSVP for OSPF stuff. Per VLAN spanning tree. EIGRP is Cisco. LDP. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'm not sure about per VLAN spanning tree. That's a rapid spanning tree. I'm gonna go LDP. Yeah, okay. Had a feeling that was a Cisco one. Oh, same thing. Love this question. Which two technologies can you recommend? You can definitely use ISIS. You can definitely use LACP. Gateway Load Balancing Protocol, Cisco, and that for interfaces is Cisco as well, I believe. Okay. Which data interchange format is used to automate Junos? Didn't we? We were talking about YAML before. We're gonna go JSON. Jesus, Fortran. Whoa, that's wild. Which automation tool can you use to, or which automation tool can you use to automate Junos OS platforms? This is a Python easy, which is like, I think like their version of doing some Python stuff that makes it a little bit easier. So we'll go with that. Which two statements properly describe Junos operational scripts? Choose two. A Junos operational script can only be called from another script. A Junos operational script can be executed manually. We'll go with that. Junos operational script can be executed automatically when a user logs in. A Junos operational script can only execute one operational command per script. No, we'll go both of those. Can be manual, and then can be automatic. Cool. Which two statements properly describe Junos event policies? An event policy uses if-then logic. I like that. Not a for loop. You can execute Junos operational command for the action of the event policy. You cannot execute an operational command for the action of the event. Let's go those two. Cool. Which two statements properly describe Junos event scripts? They're triggered manually. They're triggered automatically. Can be used to monitor the overall status of a device. Overall status. And let's go both of those. Okay. Which two statements properly describe Junos commit scripts? Junos commit scripts can enforce custom configuration rules. Cannot enforce custom configuration. When a candidate configuration is committed, only the first active commit script is used. That seems reasonable and can enforce. Now, let's see how wrong this was. I totally guessed on this one. So, can enforce custom configuration rules. So we got that one right. When it is committed, all active commit scripts are used. Okay. And the last question, which automation tool can you use to automate Junos OS platforms? I believe it's Chef. I believe. Correct. All right. Pretty sure I passed this. I feel pretty good about this. Congratulations. So I got almost a 75. I need a 70 to pass, so not too bad. So this was this one. I'll go ahead and make another video with the second practice test. And then I'll take the voucher exam. Obviously, I don't post the videos for the voucher exam because Juniper asked me not to do that. So I'm going to respect them with that and not do that. But hopefully we'll take that and pass that sometime in the next week, and then can schedule my next exam to take the JNCDA. So very cool. Appreciate everybody for watching the video. Hope you stuck around all this way to the end. Hope it was useful for you. If you're doing the challenge along with me as far as going after all the different certs, I've had a few people reach out to me and tell me about the progress so far, so that's awesome. Hope wish luck or the best of luck to everybody else who's doing it. Shoot me a comment or something like that if you are doing that, because it's pretty cool to see a whole bunch of other people kind of going down that path. So as always, hit the like, subscribe, and notification button there. Check out some of my other videos. Hope everybody has a good week. Go get at it. I'll talk to everybody soon. All right, take care. Bye.